All right, we are live with another edition of Seminole Sidelines First Impression after Florida State kind of rolls to a 39-17 win over Virginia Tech to move to 5-0 in the season. My name is Pat Burnham. I am joined by former Florida State offensive lineman Mark Salva. We're coming live from Doak Campbell Stadium and live from Madison, Wisconsin, where Mark took in the game today. We're going to talk a little bit later about his experience. But Mark, let's get started. We said there are a lot. We'll start with the positive. There's a lot of things we wanted to see in this ball game. We wanted to see a better running game. We wanted to see better pass defense. We wanted to see more receivers get involved in the passing game, and we saw all three of those things. Trey Benson had a huge game, 10 rushes, 200 yards, but just what are your first impressions coming out of this ball game today?
Started out like we all hoped it would. Take care of business early, put the game to bed, get the backups in third quarter. It was moving in that direction, and then all of a sudden we just lost intensity. Maybe they found a couple things. I don't know. I'll look at it closer. And it was just again getting off the field on third down. Running the ball up the middle in situations that with this offensive line, I didn't think that was going to even be possible. And then just not getting off the field on defense was really frustrating. And then again, a team loading the box. And, I'm glad we found a way to run. That's good. But we got to find more of a passing game. Where's Jaheim Bell? Where's where's some of the tight end stuff, the slot receivers? It's always Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, maybe a little bit to the backs here and there. But, we're 5-0, and I shouldn't feel this way, but I don't know. For some reason I do, right?
Well, listen, this is first impressions. At still a line for Pat McAfee. We're going to overreact, right? We come from a football background where we have a tendency maybe to focus on the things that we don't like more than the things that we do. To your point, we saw Kyle Morlock had the most catches he's had in the game, 4. 8 receivers did have catches today, 4 for Johnny Wilson for 54 before he went out with the injury. We do not have an update on that. He was obviously came off the field and went into the locker room, and we never saw him again. We had Keon Coleman with 3 catches for 22, Benson with 3 for 15. Then you had 4 guys that had a catch apiece. Listen, Mark, we said coming in that this was a game Florida State should be successful running the ball. Virginia Tech was 110th in rushing coming into the game, somewhere around that in the nation. So they took care of business in that way. As a former coach, you got some better defenses, stop and run coming up. Syracuse specifically coming up, and Miami's going to be tough against the run. And Florida's got a good run defense. But how, as a coach, how does Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins take the success today and build on it?
Well, most of those runs came off of one play. We ran that G power, where the play side guard pulls and everybody kind of blocks down and created a nice seam in a loaded box. And Trey Benson did what Trey Benson we hoped he could do, and he did. Just outran everybody, made a few people miss, ran through a few arm tackles, and he looked like the old Trey Benson today, which was really good. But again, we got to have. I don't know. I just again, first impression, it just felt like that we got into to parts of the game, especially in that second quarter when we just couldn't generate any offense and we couldn't get off the field on defense. And that's the thing that's kind of stuck with me. Even though we won the game handily, they were big plays, big runs, but methodically taking the ball down the field. I don't feel like we did it. We did some, but we didn't do it consistently, I guess. Right? It's not like we imposed. I didn't feel like we controlled the game, I guess is what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, in the first half, FSU, the first 3 drives, 27 plays for 186 yards, 3 scores to go at 22-0. The last 3 drives, they had 8 plays for minus 12 yards. Of course, one of those was a kneel down play in the half after I believe they had a penalty or sack. And then on the converse side, you had Virginia Tech first 3 drives, 3 and outs for 9 yards total. In their last 2 drives, 14 for 146, chewed up 10 minutes and 57 seconds of the clock. Certainly, if you're Florida State and you're a Florida State fan, you got to be happy that Virginia Tech, they thought they could throw the ball in FSU, which is, They did not have a passing game that actually exists. And again, we talk about the DBs. They stood up today. Virginia Tech was able to run the ball 35 times for 209 yards. That surprised me a little bit. Did it surprise you?
Yeah, totally. I just thought that I thought the defensive line at the end there, they had a tremendous impact, right? They got after them pretty good. But like I said, there was a stretch in that game where they were just ripping off runs up the middle. They were in front of the chains, right? Again, just a little stretch of that game where I know we were trying to take control of the game, and we couldn't seem to do it. I guess that's the disappointing thing, but the rest of it is great. I don't want to come down as a negative Nancy.
Right.
At the time, I don't want to be a sunshine pumper either. I want to be realistic. This is probably the worst football team that's left on our schedule, other than North Alabama, right?
Yeah.
And there was. I just didn't feel like we controlled the game like I hoped we would. We ripped off some big plays, and then of course the kickoff return kind of makes that feeling a little more prevalent, I guess. That was a unfortunate circumstance there to let that one pop like that, and nobody run him.
Yeah, I kept on wondering during the first half, why do they keep on returning this kick? They're starting in minus 25 field position or worse. Of course, then they break it now. Obviously, you don't see that every day. It was a big play in the game, brought Virginia Tech to within 5 points, 22-17. Listen, it seemed like they were sleepwalking in the second quarter. Obviously, you don't ever want to start the second half that way. You basically created an extra possession for Virginia Tech by giving them that touchdown on kickoff. Do you think, it seemed like maybe that got their attention? It seemed like they picked up the pace a little bit after that on both sides of the ball. I don't know what I'd have to look and see what the comparison was first quarter to the second half to first half. But it does seem like, once they got that touchdown that Florida State kind of rejuvenated, they responded with a score to go right back up, I believe, 29-17 after, the very next drive. But yeah, Virginia Tech, 170, actually they had 178 total yards in the second half. Of course, now some of that was after the game was over, but do you think that served as a wake-up call? And, how, if you're Mike Norvell and the staff, again, another win, but another win where you saw some things that you don't like? Because I'll be honest with you, I was very, one of my concerns is you knew Virginia Tech was going to be one-dimensional. They have not been able to throw the ball all season. Both quarterbacks were under 56% passing for the year, and Wells led them with 56.5, I believe, and Drones came in at 54% passer. Were you surprised that they were able to stick around as long as they were as one-dimensional as they were on offense? I mean, on defense. I mean, Virginia Tech was one-dimensional on offense.
Yeah. For sure. And again, they did a nice job with some of those swing screens, and the screens that they ran, the quarterback runs. I mean, they stayed in front of the chains, and we kind of let them out of jail a few times. The third and shorts, the fourth and shorts. You get in those positions. Those are high. Those are high probability you're going to make those plays if you're an offense. So again, I don't want to be just total downer on a win where we won by 22 points.
Yeah.
I mean, so again, what I was looking for us to control the game 100%, all through the game, and it started out that way. And I think that's probably what adds to the feeling of disappointment is that we let it out. And why did that happen? Did we relax? Apparently, we weren't as intense. I don't know. I want to look at it closer.
Yeah,
where some of these breakdowns might have been. I think they hit on a few things, and they hit on some of these little easy screens and stuff that they hit, and like I said, stayed in front of the chain. So,
yeah, I think it had shades of Boston College, right?
Look, and we're spoiled. I mean, we're spoiled because when we're a top 5 team, we've dominated teams like this and controlled games, and maybe I'm remembering things, I'm remembering all the good things. I'm sure we struggle with some teams too, but like I said, this is the worst team that's left on our schedule. And I was hoping for it to be, the first home game, big crowd, 3:30 start time. I was thinking, we're primed and ready, and we came out that way for sure. I was fired up watching the start of the game, and then just kind of let them out of jail. And you'd like to see us step on the throat. You'd like to see us not have that lull. And that's the part I think that if I'm Mike Norvell, I'm really emphasizing that killer instinct, because let me tell you what, we're a top 5 team. I don't feel like we're a top 5 team. You're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, and that was going to be one of my questions. I think we both, and I'll ask you this question. I mean, we said coming into the season it was an ACC championship game or bust for Florida State. Listen, you could certainly see if they play this way, against a Miami, a Duke, if you have a Riley Leonard.
Right.
You've got a good running quarterback now. Obviously, Syracuse next week is going to be with Garrett Schrader, but without Aronde Gadsden, who's out for the season with an injury. But I do think that we've talked about what the ACC championship means, and that means if you win it, you got a real good chance to get into the college football playoff if you go to the championship game and win it. I still feel like Florida State, after this game, is in a perfect position to make a run to the ACC championship game because of who is left on the schedule, and you might be able to even get there with one loss. But I think my concern is what happened. Can they, is this team college football playoff worthy? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't feel like it is right now, and part of that is I don't have a lot of confidence in our passing game as it is right now. I don't see enough diversity in the passing game for us to generate yards against a really good defense. Maybe it'll change. Maybe we'll grow into it. We still got a lot of games left. Still got a lot of things. I know Mike Norvell knows what to do, right? And then defensively, I'm still a little worried about the back end. Virginia Tech, Drones couldn't throw it.
No.
I mean, he couldn't throw it. And, that doesn't mean there weren't guys uncovered and open, because I think there were. It's hard to see on a TV copy with the way I was watching it, but I'm going to dig into that a little bit more too and see. But so you asked me, are we the top 4 playoff contender? I don't feel that way right now. I think we are a contender for the title. I think that's realistic. I think we can get in the title game and compete for it, whether it's against North Carolina, Miami, Clemson, or whoever. Obviously we've beaten Clemson. I think we can beat any of those 3 teams, obviously. So yeah, I think that's realistic. I think if we get into the playoff against a hot team, and we could be that hot team. I mean, at the end of the year, like, we still got a lot of football left.
Well, listen, we did see improvement in the defensive backs. They're 14 and 27 for 105. Drones was. This was a team that the defensive backs should have played well. The secondary should have played well, whether you count the linebackers or just the DBs. Now, we did see Markeem Dent when he was back in this ball game. We did not see as much Kevin Knowles. And then, listen, it looks like we got a star in the making in Tallahassee and Conrad Hussey, who played early and played well. Yeah. Do you think, I mean, was it just pure coincidence that they played better with those 2 guys being inserted in the lineup more? Or do you think it was more Virginia Tech, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both. And we had a bunch of, a different offensive line this week, right? So Rob Scott, Darius Washington, a lot more Keandre Jones, it looked like.
Of course, Bless did not play.
Bless did not play. A little bit of 63 Byers, but so look, we got a deep team. We got a lot of guys. There's only one ball. I get it. I was talking about Jaheim Bell earlier. I'd like to see him get more involved. That guy's a playmaker.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see why he didn't play more. I don't think he came into the game until late in the first quarter. They were definitely 3 or 4 series in before he came in. Don't know what that was. Obviously, he played, so he was healthy. So it would be interesting to see if there's any backstory to that, if we can find out why that was, because obviously he was one of the better players against Boston College, and I can't remember. I think he had 3 or 4 receptions against Clemson. So, I don't think he was targeted today at all, and he certainly didn't get a carry. And we've seen him get carries out of the backfield as well. But you're right. We did see a different offensive line, but they did perform well. Now, we're still seeing some rotation, Mark. Do you think that they maybe should go to a set 5 and less rotation until maybe the game's more? And we saw more counter today. Do you have any idea why that is?
No, I don't. I don't know what, why they run what they run when they run it. That's now it's Atkins' question. They did run the wing T down play, the power G play, I like to call it. And those were a lot of the big runs that Lawrence Toafili had and Trey Benson had. And that was good. Here's the thing about the offensive line. All those guys are all about the same. I don't know that you get that much more from anybody, any one guy. I think, Rob Scott has, it might be a better pass protector than run blocker than Jeremiah Byers possibly. But, Dimitri Emanuel brings you a little something different. Keandre Jones, maybe a little bit, but not much. But Darius Washington is solid. All those guys are really solid, good players. I don't think any one of them are an elite guy. I think they're all good college football players. So I don't that doesn't bother me as much as far as that goes. But I'd like to see Jordan Travis just be a little sharper, a lot sharper actually. He missed some throws. That one to Ja'Kai Douglas. Ja'Kai was running away from that guy. He underthrew him. That would have been a good play.
Yeah, and then, listen, I do think getting Ja'Kai back probably going to help with one of your concerns and one of our concerns, and being able to spread the ball out. Right, he seems to be he's the most experienced in this offense of all the guys that are legitimate slots.
Yeah,
we haven't seen a lot of Winston Wright. We thought we might see more of him. Listen, and if Johnny Wilson's not able to come back, they're not going to have for next week, and we don't know what his status. He might have just got nicked up a little bit, and they decided to hold him out of the rest of the ball game. But certainly, if he's not able to come back, Mark, you would think that you're going to have to spread the ball around more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Portier played a little bit today, didn't he?
Yep, he did. We saw more of him, more of Akeem. We saw more of Dustin.
Yep. Right.
That was a great catch by Dustin too.
Yeah. So look, we got guys, man. We got guys, and I just, I think we all thought that we would go in and with all these weapons that we have, and we would just run crazy. But teams have a book on us, and the book is load the box, give them the takeoffs to the outside, low percentage throws, make Jordan Travis beat us that way. And it works. It makes it difficult. Now we had an answer with the running game today, but the past 2 weeks against Clemson and BC, the previous 2 weeks, it was a formula that seemed to really bog us down. And so we got to get an answer for that kind of stuff. And that answer is Jordan Travis, being a little more accurate, maybe putting that seventh guy in the box, putting him in conflict with a tight end or a slot receiver, and if they're going to put that guy in the box, we got to make that guy play run and pass and put that guy in conflict more and Jordan execute. And look, you got Jordan's legs. Jordan's legs were big today.
Yep.
He had good runs, and that's always going to be a good weapon. So, again, we're 5-0, man, and we're a top 5 team right now, and probably top 4 because Texas lost.
Well, right? Listen, I think the one thing you got to look at, I think you got to take like a little microsection, watching some players get better, right? Because a team can get better, players can get better as the season wears on. And a guy that stood out to me on defense and seems to be getting better by the week is DJ Lundy at linebacker.
Yeah,
he seemed, particularly against the run, he seems like he's more confident in this defense than he ever has been. Obviously, we saw. We always talk about Jared, but Jared had 2 big sacks in the ball game, in the second half. And then we've talked a little bit. And then I tell you who really played well, I don't know, especially early, he stood out a lot, was Malcolm Ray at defensive tackle. And, I thought he looked really good today. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Hussey. I think getting Dent was credited with 4 tackles a day. I think getting him back helped. Now, they only have Florida State with 2 pressures. It seemed like to me they had a lot more quarterback hurries in that, but I don't think that stat's ever right. But what was obviously we knew this was not a great offense coming into the ball game that Virginia Tech brought in here, but what is your positive takeaways from the defense?
I think when when it got close, I thought the defense stepped up for sure. We hassled that quarterback. Look, he made some miracle plays. I say miracle plays. I mean, we lost containment once or twice, and again, they hit some of those little screens, and guys hustling the ball okay. But when Jared burst, and I think all year he's played really hard, but he had more impact on this game than he's had in the previous ones in terms of pressures and sacks and whatnot. I think Patrick Payton's getting better playing the run for sure.
He ended up with 6 tackles and 1.5 tackles for loss. Led the team in tackles for loss. Yeah,
was good. Did Bethune play? I don't
he
know
played, but he had 1 tackle in the game. I think I don't know if anything was going on there or not. We'll try to find out. But obviously, DJ ended up playing a little bit more. And we saw Blake early in the ball game, earlier than we've ever seen Blake Nicholson in the ball game.
For sure.
And he plays the same position that Tatum and Omar do. So we saw more of him. So I think there was probably something going on with Tatum without knowing. I mean, that's just a guess as early as Blake was in. But listen, I think I
like that we pressured more. I like when we pressure, and make the quarterback make a quick decision, especially a guy like this. When we sent pressure and we had, like either a free runner or, guys in his face and forced him to make a quick decision, obviously that was very effective. If we didn't have that, if it was like some kind of play action or something where he had a little time, guys seem to kind of shake loose and you're like, oh, and they made some nice catches and throws, but, nothing but like I said, this is the worst passing offense we're going to see the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think we don't ever give I didn't think we'd see Alex Mastromano as much as we did today, but he had another excellent game, 4 kicks, averaged 51.5 yards per kick. 2 of those resulted in Virginia Tech having to start inside their 20. And even when they were playing well, Virginia Tech did not, outside of one drive, really didn't seem to be able to sustain much against Florida State, particularly early. They had 1 8-play drive for 76 yards, one touchdown drive with 16 for 70. The longest drive after that, they had 12 plays for 60 yards. They turned over on downs in the fourth quarter. So you did see that defense tighten up in the second half, where I believe
Pat, the bottom line is this: we had control of the game, we lost control of the game, and that's why I feel like I do. I am nitpicking like crazy.
Well, listen, we're going to overreact right after the game, right? We don't have benefit. We had big expectations for this team.
This came in 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. So listen, we're a little bit surprised because this team is a veteran team, right? It's got a lot of experience. You got a lot of guys that have played a lot of football on this roster. So I think we're disappointed that we thought they'd keep the hammer down at 22-0 and not find themselves in a 5-point ball game 14 minutes a minute into the second half. So yeah, listen, we've got big expectations for this football team. So I think that's part of it. But as you're right, they are 5-0. They're going to be ranked in the top 5 or 6 in the nation when the polls come out on Sunday. You got a chance to go 6-0 next week against Syracuse, who's missing its best offensive weapon, and Aronde Gadsden. So again, it just sets up really nice for Florida State. Obviously, we got to see what the condition is with Johnny Wilson. I don't know if they've have not gotten a text from Bob or Kurt to say whether they've addressed that in the post-game press conference. But the most important thing, as always, it's a result-oriented business. We always talk about it. It's a meritocracy. That's your word, not mine. I can't even spell that word. So listen, they're 5-0. They've got a good chance to be 6-0. And if Riley Leonard, we'll see what happens with him. I heard last night that they think that may be a lingering injury, and he may not be available for Florida State. So if that's the case, you're placing a Syracuse team without its best offensive weapon, and obviously you got to potentially play Duke without its best offensive weapon. But they got off to a great start. They finished, and everything is in between. It matters when you start getting into the micromanaging part of it. But at macro, listen.
Hey, Pat, how many times have we done this?
Too many times.
The last 3 years.
Yes.
And all we ever wanted was just for us to compete.
Right.
And just, we just wanted guys to play hard. Look, this team plays hard. I have no issues with the effort. I have no issues with, the way, we probably had too many penalties, but, that reared its ugly head a little bit. But how many times have we done this show in the past where all we wanted was
listen, we have a tendency to revert back to when we were directly involved in football instead of indirectly, right? I mean, you're always worried about how this will affect us the next game, and you look at your weaknesses. That's what the coach in us does, and I think, as I've said before, sometimes I think we need to, as fans, as Florida State people, I think we need to learn to appreciate the prosperity more than we do. And, I said it after the Clemson game. We're sitting there picking them apart over Clemson, and there were some things that we should have picked apart. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as you beat Clemson, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's by 1 point or by 51 points. But, yeah, so listen, they are 5-0. It was another victorious Saturday for Florida State. We have now, 15 wins out of the last 18 games, I believe, something like that. 10-3 last year, 5
11 in a row.
year. Yeah, so listen, they're rolling right along, and listen, as you said, when Mike Norvell got here in 2020, this program was really probably in its worst state since before Coach Bowden got here.
Yeah.
So we need to take some solace in that, and I think we're both going to enjoy this victory when we get off here. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But listen,
here's what we know, right? It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think.
Right.
And when you look at the film and you sleep on it and you look at it, you say, you know what, that was pretty good. Because look, Trey Benson having 200 yards rushing, that's not very common. I don't care who you play, right? That's not common. And so kudos to Trey Benson for a big game. Lawrence Toafili with a tremendous run, tremendous effort. Offensive line. Keon on
that long touchdown run, Keandre Jones. Yeah, I was getting ready to say.
Keandre Jones, but Keon Coleman's block on Toafili's run. I mean, so there's a ton of good stuff.
Oh yeah. And listen, when we watch it, we will be more excited than we are now. And listen, I think when you've been in it before and then you're out of it as long as we have been, you have a tendency to forget how hard it is to win a football game, right? We see it every week where somebody's a big favorite and they end up in a dogfight. Now, this did not turn into a dogfight. This game was over. Well, it did for a little while, for about half the third quarter. It was a dogfight. Then Florida State extended themselves, which we figured they would. And that, again, I think
they did the kickoff return and then
And listen, we knew the game. I don't know if we knew the optics would be the way they were, but we all said this would be a 40-something to 17, 40-something to 20-something game. And
I think that's what makes me mad more than anything. I said 50 to 17.
Yeah, you did.
I wanted to hang half 100.
Yeah, well, listen, I think you got a couple of those coming before the season's over because I do think we'll see more counter. And listen, I think what we saw today was the offense needed to get more people involved in the passing game, and they did. 8 receivers had a catch. Jordan was 18 of 24. It wasn't spectacular like we're used to seeing Jordan, and I don't think there were a ton of just really big plays like we've seen in the past. It was more methodical, right? It was more intermediate passing game. I don't think we saw let me see if I can find big plays before we get off of here. But, yeah, it was not – we're used to seeing these gigantic plays by Florida State. And, listen, there's nothing wrong with being solid. Yeah, they had 3 plays of in the past game over 15 yards, and we usually see 3 plays of 15-plus yards and a half with Florida State. But we wanted to see the running game, and we did see that. And they had six runs of over 10 yards in the ball game, including an 80-yard run and a 62-yard run for Trey. So it was good to see Trey, as you said, run like Trey. It was good to get a win. That's what you had to come in here and do. You knew that. Listen, you got to give credit to Virginia Tech too, Mark. They have not had much success this year. They're 2-4 now, but to come down to be down 22-0 and come back and make this a 22-17 game. I think the other thing is, I've told people up in the press box before when they start wondering somebody gets beat or somebody makes a catch over somebody, you got to remember they got some pretty good football now. Virginia Tech's not what it was. They're kind of going through a transition, like Florida State did. Obviously, this is, I think, the second coach they've had since Coach Beamer retired. But you got to give your hats off to Virginia Tech for coming back and making it a game, and you got to credit Florida State for saying, "Hey, we've had enough's enough. We got to finish this ball game off," and that's what they did.
100. I can't say it any better than that. You're exactly right.
All right, so Mark, before we you pulled double duty today, and we're about to wrap it up. We're glad you joined us. If you're not an Osceola subscriber, please go to theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com and check us out. Obviously, you get the YouTube show for free, and it's a podcast as well. But you actually did a double hitter today. You watched the Wisconsin game at 11 a.m. this morning in Madison, Wisconsin. What was that atmosphere like? You've been to Florida State. One of the cool things, if you're a football person, is to try to hit as many stadiums in the country as you can. How was that?
Never been.
Listen,
Never been.
Especially with the rumors that Florida State may be headed to Big Ten. What would that? What would that?
It was cool. They played Rutgers, and we had some friends up here in Madison that we came to visit, and their best experience. So we went to the game. They had a full camper in the stadium, full stadium. It's a nice stadium. It kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe like Jordan Hare a little bit, maybe. Yep. And not quite as loud, but it was 40 degrees here. Everybody had their mittens and sweaters on and stuff, and jackets on. So, but yeah, jumping around was cool. They had some cool little deals. But I'll tell you, I looked at that team and I'm going, I think we'd beat them 50-0. They got a quarterback who can't run and who's not very good throwing the ball.
Hey, speaking of celebrating, are you going to be in town next week for the celebration of the 93 team?
Is that next week?
Yeah, Syracuse week.
No, I thought it was going to be Miami week. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not going to be here for that.
All right.
Either.
All right. Well, hey, Mark, I know you got things to do up there. You're kind of on a mini vacation, so we appreciate you joining us as always. We love to get your perspective on what you see, and of course your expertise as well. But again, Florida State moves to 5-0 with a 39-17 win over Virginia Tech, with Syracuse up next in Doak Campbell Stadium next week. I think it's either going to be a 12 o'clock game or 7:30 game, but we will certainly break that news as we get it. I think it's on a 6-day window, which we should have by mid-afternoon tomorrow. But we hope everybody has a good time enjoying the Florida State win, and please join us again next week after the Syracuse game, as Mark and I will be back. We were supposed to have J.P. Peterson with us tonight, but he had some technical difficulties down in Tampa. But as always, Mark, sign us off.
Go Noles, scalp them.